I grew up thinking life had to be a certain way. I bought into the program, the checklist of go to school, get a good education, get a good job, get the wife, the kids, the house, the cars, pay off the house, retire and die. And I kind of did a lot of those things in the beginning and got to that point, and I was very lost.
Hello, you are listening to the Late Bloomer Living podcast. I'm Yvonne Marchese, your host, and I'm so happy you're here. I created this podcast to give you inspiration and let you know you're not alone in feeling stuck in midlife. I also invite you to join the Age Agitators Club for women, where we come together monthly to hatch our plans for making waves as we age. Being part of this community for women will remind you on a regular basis that you're not too old, and it's never too late to do that thing you've been thinking about. You can find more information at latebloomerliving.com/community, and I hope to see you there. Hello, my friend. If you've ever felt lost or trapped by life's expectations, today's conversation is for you. And I mean, who has not been there? We are going on a journey of transformation with our guest, Andrew Dewar. He is a CPA and self-proclaimed skeptic turned life coach. He is the co-founder of the coaching program 5-Year You, along with his partner, Catherine Collins. And I'm excited for you to hear his story because Andrew achieved financial freedom and all the things we think of as ideal life goals, but still found himself feeling unfulfilled and empty. In our conversation, Andrew shares his incredible story of how a hockey accident started him down the path to confront emotional baggage from his past. And we explore how addressing our past traumas can unlock our potential for growth no matter our age. So whether you're navigating midlife changes or seeking to become the best version of yourself, this episode offers some food for thought about personal healing and self-discovery. So without further ado, here's Andrew Dewar. Let's go. Andrew, thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm thrilled for this.
Me too. So my goodness, how do you go from being a CPA to doing what you're doing now?
Accidentally, like all good things in life, you kind of go down a path. And I grew up thinking life had to be a certain way. I bought into the program, the checklist of go to school, get a good education, get a good job, get the wife, the kids, the house, the cars, pay off the house, retire and die. And I kind of did a lot of those things in the beginning and got to that point, and I was very lost. And it was in those moments of after paying off the mortgage that I realized I was getting sicker. And I was kind of going down this journey that I didn't understand what was happening, but I was trying to heal myself. Like I was trying to learn what was going on with my body because I had terrible indigestion all the time. I never felt safe anywhere. And what it called to me was that I had spent 30 years putting all my emotions in what I call the emotional garage. And that was a really great place to hide my emotions from when I was a teenager. And I just never dealt with them. If you would ask me a few years ago, how are you feeling? It would be good. Of course, that's what we all say. But if I was in my quietest moments, I've worked from home for decades, and I would ask myself out loud all the time, like, how are you doing? And I'd say, okay. And I knew I wasn't okay, but I was not going to open any of those boxes in the garage. And it was only after I got sicker and sicker that I recognized that things needed to be dealt with. And in doing that, I tried a lot of different modalities, which we'll talk about. And I had to face the fact that the stuff that had happened to me when I was a child. Now, when I was 12 years old, 13 years old, my sister, who is very severely autistic, she tried to kill me out of the blue one day. We were at the lake. We were just normal day at our cabin, and she picked up a rock, like a 20, 30-pound rock, with strength that we hadn't seen. And she just came at me, and I had to swim out and basically swim out where she couldn't get out with a rock. And that
Wow.
led
That must have
into
been
two
terrifying.
years. It's yeah, it was. But I just, you put in you're too young to understand these things and everything. So you just kind of, you put it to the side thinking like, okay, it's behind me now. So I don't have to
Mm.
deal with that.
Mm.
Very accountant way of thinking, I might add. Not really useful in the long game, but it served its purpose at the time. But that led to 2 years of my sister just perpetually harming me. There would be, for no reason, it could be 3 o'clock in the morning, she would come into my room and she'd throw the first thing that she could find, whether it was a book, scissors, knife, whatever, it got thrown at me with full force.
Wow.
Um, and of course, at that time as a teenager, nobody really understands autism. Like, this is the 80s. It's not like it is today. And I had to make up a whole bunch of rules in my head. And one of the things was that I'm just not safe anywhere I go. And I would walk around for decades with my hands in fists, and like, not because I was angry, but because I was so tense. And I remember people would, like, put their hand on my back and go, "Oh, why are you so tense?" And I just sit there and like, I'm not. This is how I always am. So here I am with my emotional garage, just stressed out and not even realizing it, because I can't let these emotions go, because I don't want to face the past because it's behind me and I don't feel like it's needed to pull out. And this kind of all comes to a head in the last few years, where I'm acknowledging that I don't feel right and I don't know what to do. I didn't want to go to the traditional talk therapy because I had tried that when I was a kid, and I had a negative experience with it, and I wasn't sure if it was really helping. So I really wanted things that would have an impact, an immediate impact. And sometimes you got to be careful for what you wish for. You just might get it. And what happened with that was, I didn't know myself, flat out. My first EMDR session, we were talking, and I explained why I was and how I was.
Can I stop you
And
for a moment so you can
yeah, for
explain
sure.
what EMDR therapy is for anybody
Absolutely.
who
So
doesn't know? I don't know.
it's okay. Yeah, no, I didn't know what it was either, when I think I got the acronym wrong through like a lot of conversations, but it's a eye movement desensitization reprogramming is what it stands for. And so what you'll do in that, the science of it, it's relatively new. It's like 10 years old. It helps a lot with PTSD, I'm told. And you can do it with like paddles or just tapping your lap. But the way I did it was like there was a light bar. And so you would reprogram your brain through an event. So the idea being that you were trying to collapse like a neural pathway in your brain that you've been using so that you could come up with a new one.
Hmm.
And so you would sit there and it would be, well, tell me about this time you didn't feel safe, which was my issue. And, you sit there and you talk about the event at the lake, and then you watch this bar go back, and it's like, how do you feel? And you would, then you assess where it's stuck in your body. And I'm going through all this thinking like, I don't understand this. My accountant brain was very 3D spreadsheet based. And it's like, if I can't see it, it doesn't exist. And I've often found that when you have those beliefs, life has a tendency to come around you and kind of go, okay, we're going to just pull you off to the side and teach you something new here. And while that happened, I would come out of a session feeling like the elephant had been lifted off my shoulders, and I would feel amazing. Sometimes like I felt like I had a new lease on life. And other times I'd walk out feeling like I had been the one that had to physically lift the elephant off my shoulders, and I would sleep in my car because I couldn't drive. I was so exhausted. This is
Wow.
all after an hour and a half session.
I have one more burning question before we go forward with your story
Absolutely.
that I want to ask you. With your accountant brain, what made you decide to even try EMDR? I imagine that must have been a
Yeah.
hurdle of its own.
It was. Oh, it absolutely was. So what had happened was, like I mentioned, I had indigestion. I had had it since my teens, which makes sense because this was all, me kind of, we'll call it swallowing my feelings.
Hmm.
And I was going to an acupuncturist, and I was doing all these things, and she was really good at helping me with a lot of issues. And then this one thing kept happening, and I basically walked in and I said to her, I have gone down to water and I'm still having indigestion right now. So it's not, she's like, okay, well, then, it's emotional. And it's probably often what will happen is that your head and your heart aren't agreeing with what's going on, meaning your accountant brain has built this nice, safe life for you and it makes sense. And your heart is going, this isn't what we're supposed to be doing right now.
Mm.
And even that in that moment is a lot to take in. But I started crying right there on the spot.
Yeah. A lot of people with accountant brain, or even myself, I'll say, and I have nowhere near an accountant brain, but there's a certain amount of skepticism towards alternative healing processes that a lot of people have. And I would lump acupuncture into that as well. You must have been feeling very desperate to even go to the acupuncturist, is my guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was very, actually at that point, no, but the stuff that started me on this whole healing journey was, I used to play hockey 7 to 10 times a week. So I would play 2 games a night, and I'm a hockey player. I
That's a
grew up
lot.
playing.
Yeah.
It is, and I
Yeah.
loved it. It was a great way to get and keep in shape and all these things. And then one day, I fell, and I fall all the time in hockey. That's just a normal thing. But I hit myself on the ice in a way that I couldn't prevent you can brace yourself, and I had contact on the side of my temple, and I had TMJ, and I
Oh.
had a concussion. I couldn't look at a screen for 6 weeks. It was hell. And from what I've understood now, that was kind of my life's wake up calling, like kind of that initial push that goes, okay, you're just going to keep playing hockey and doing your life, and there's something else for you. So sorry, but this is the way it's going. And I did not feel like that. It's only in the last few months that I've been looking back on it and going like that was the fork in the road that I didn't realize.
Hmm.
And my 2 years with a concussion and dealing with all these symptoms, I never got it looked at. I just thought you tough it out. That was my accountant brain. I'm just going to label it that.
Mm-hmm.
It's also could be referred to as the idiot brain. Not saying accountants are idiots, but it definitely in my case it was. And I, finally got to a point where I'm like, I need, like, maybe it's a muscular thing. That was the only thing that made sense. And so I started to go to is it cranial sacral? It's like where they kind of massage like inside your mouth and stuff to try to loosen the muscles on it. And that wasn't really, it was helping, but not a lot. And then she recommended acupuncture. So I went for that. And then that was really effective. So, and I believe you find the right people at the right time. And at the time, I wasn't realizing that was happening, but it's definitely shown to be the case. And we worked on a whole bunch of things, and I learned a little bit about, traditional Chinese acupuncture and the meridians and stuff like that in the body, which again, no clue about. Like I just kind of thought I'm just this one piece meat suit that I'm occupying, and that's life. And then she's the one who said, like, I said when I was crying, like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do next because I don't want to go to therapy. I don't want to talk on a couch, which is, a very accountant brain way of thinking of things. Uh, then I don't want to deal with my problems for 20 years to hopefully fix something, maybe not. And she's like, well, have you tried EMDR? Have you heard of that? And then we got into that conversation. And so that really did a lot. One of the hardest things with that was that it showed me that I didn't know who I was. I had spent a lifetime living everybody else's life, doing everything possible to please everybody else, because if everybody else around me was happy, I would be safe and I would be happy. And as that happened, I wasn't. And it was wearing on me and wearing on me and wearing on me. And then, these things started to happen. The right modalities for therapy started showing up, and I just kind of went with it. So, and EMDR was like the first time I recognized that, you can fix something in your brain very, very quickly when you're willing to and give something new a try.
Really interesting. And that then led you to Reiki. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. So, at that point, I'm At that point, the doors of perception blow wide open and go, okay, so what else is there?
Yeah.
And somebody was saying, yeah, I go to a Reiki. I'm like, well, what's that? And it's like, yeah, it's kind of hard to explain, but you sit, you just lie there, and they kind of put their hands over you, and they do some energy stuff. I think it'd be good for you. And so I shrug and I go to this Reiki person, and for her very first session, she comes afterwards and she says, your sacral chakra was in a cage. And I mean, come on, I'm an accountant. I don't know what a chakra is. I don't know anything about energy or chi or life force or auras. And to me, it all seems in that moment like the doors, I see the doors of perception are blown wide open, but it's just a crack. Like I'm just kind of peeking through the
Right.
keyhole, kind of going like, is this, what is this we're looking at right now? And she said, like, so what we did is like we released that energy from the cage. And it's like you've been like this, from what I can tell, your whole life. So you might feel a little tired after this session. And I kind of smiled and thanked her and went on my merry way. Well, I went home after that, and it was noon on Saturday, and I slept right through to work on Monday. I could not wake up. I was just, something happened.
Wow.
And again, that was another time where life kind of goes, there's more here for you. And it
Mm.
doesn't matter whether you believe it or not. We're showing you by your experience that this is something that exists. And so I started educating myself on chakras, and I would go back for Reiki as we worked on things. And then she said, I think you really could benefit from a theta healing session. And I, again, shrug my shoulders and go, okay, what is that? It's like, well, it's kind of hard to explain. I'm like, everything is hard to explain, but everybody keeps referring me to the next thing. So I'm like, okay, well, that's fine. Let's just see. So I went to see this theta healer, and I walk in, and she's like, what do you want to work on? I'm like, I don't know why I'm here. I'm going to be honest with you. Your coworker said I needed this, so here I am. And she's like, okay, well, what's on your mind today? I'm like, you know what? It's abundance. I am in a scarcity mindset. I have been my whole life. That's kind of just an accountant way of looking at things. But even before that, this is just how I perceive things. So I would really like to feel abundant. At this point, I have my house paid off. I should feel at least like better than I do. And so
So
we go
interesting. I want to
back and
stop you there for just a
yeah,
second
for sure.
because you
Go
just
for it.
said you had your house paid off. So you paid off your house. This is the 6 year timeline in which you paid off your
Yes.
mortgage, and you
Yep.
still felt like you were in a state of being of lack or needing work on
Yes.
feeling abundant. That is such an
Yeah.
important thing, I think, for us all to take in. I have my own issues around money, huge, and can relate to that. And
We all do.
right. And I would think from the outside, looking in at your life, that, wow, he paid off his mortgage in 6 years. He's got this all figured out. There's no issues there. And here you are telling me, nope, I still felt not abundant.
And I think you see that with a lot of people. You want more because you think more is going to make you feel safe, or more is going to make you feel happy or
Mhm.
abundant or whatever it is. And it's an internal feeling.
Mhm.
Everything you're trying to get outside of you is something you can give to yourself inside of you, which again, accountant brain did not get that, but Andrew now really does and helps people with that. So yeah, it was such a weird thing because, if I was to write it down, it didn't make sense. I should feel way better about this, but I was still working through all these childhood issues of, like being raised with a single income family, and having a sister with special needs and all these things, and you just kind of grow up a certain way. So and that's what I find when I work on people now, when we're coaching people and helping them get started on their 5-year journey, is a lot of it is just releasing these internal blocks that we have to be a certain way because that was the belief we picked up when we were 4 years old. You
Yeah.
know, I remember, and this is really embarrassing to share, but I remember my dad gave me two pennies when I was like 3 or 4 years old. I was young, and he said like, don't lose them. So I swallowed them because I knew I wouldn't lose them then.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's just like these things. I mean, that makes no sense to
It does to
an
a 4 year
8 year,
old.
but it did to a 4 year old, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You're hitting that 100% on the head. We make decisions about stuff that happens to us when we're little and we're too young to really process what's really happening, and we internalize things, and then those things are in us and running us. And if we,
Yeah,
especially if we don't stop to acknowledge them and don't stop to become aware of them. So okay, so you do this theta healing that you've never heard of before. Were your physical symptoms from the indigestion, were they better by this point?
they were. Yeah, they went away pretty quickly. Yeah,
And when you
yeah,
went to
yeah.
Reiki, you took that next step. And was that also part of the healing with the indigestion, or had the EMDR had already kind of handled
The
that?
MDR had helped that with the safe feeling and as I was kind of wrapping up EMDR, I started to find the Reiki healer, and that was kind of where the energy work in my root chakra, which is where we feel our safety, our it's kind of our foundation, our sense of safety, and everything is there. And that was one of the other things that was originally for going there to deal with, not knowing that that was it, but it was just when we talked more about chakras and the more I learned about it after that epic first time that this was what I learned about it. I'm like, okay, so, the root chakra is where we feel is our safety, it's our security, it's our foundation of going out in life and feeling like we can operate in the world. And I worked on that while I was doing Reiki. I was finding anything I could to help myself move the energy along all the time, going like feeling silly about it. Like, but it was working, and that was the thing that kept me going through it. Is okay, I did this thing. Do I feel better today than I did last week before I did this? Yes. Okay, so it's working. So we're not going to question why it's working, whether it's energy, even if it's just the placebo and it's working. If it's working, go with it because you're healing, and that's really what it is. So I move forward with that within the initial theta session. What we do in our sessions is we talk with the person, we try to get to that. We dig for beliefs is what it's called. So we're kind of digging down to go, okay, what is the root belief on this? And I'm happy to share, like most of the time when people come to me now, it starts out with money because that's usually the thing people want to fix. And I always look at that as like it's the fruit on the tree. And we got to go down and dig into the roots to make sure that the roots are okay because you can't just make a fruit appear. You got to have the whole structure from the bottom up be better. And so many of us actually, I have yet to see somebody that is not missing a key fundamental emotion inside of them, like knowing what true love really feels like, self love, worthiness, forgiveness. These are things that as humans, we think we have to get outside of ourselves because as children, that's what we learn. We learn that if you get wrong answers on a question, like on a test at school, you're not perfect. And you're told you need to be perfect, but you were born perfect. And you're just being conditioned by people who are conditioned by people who are conditioned by people. And it's wrong. And that is a really hard thing to accept as an adult because most of us are so afraid to look in that emotional garage that we would rather die the pains that we're suffering than cry a few tears
So
or
true.
to let go of those things that make us who we are. And there's a better side on the other. So my role is to help people kind of cross this bridge to leave this old way of being, this old life behind and
Yeah.
move forward with purpose.
So I do want to stop you and go back yet again,
Yeah.
because we've jumped from you going to experience theta healing as a participant and a recipient, but now you are offering theta healing as a service. What was the shift What was your experience with the theta healing that made you go, "Oh, I think I need to do this to help other people."
Okay, it's a two-part thing. I grew up when I've always been the person that goes to help people. I would be the person if in kindergarten, I remember this, and I remember the teacher telling this to my mom, is that if there was somebody sitting alone, I would go sit with them. I didn't want anybody to feel left out. I didn't want anybody to feel pain. This is long before the stuff that I was going through. And when I went to Theta Healing, the first session, we worked on abundance. And then within a month or two, I got a call saying that I had won a trip to anywhere in the world and $1,000 spending money. Now, before this, I had never won anything. I could have won a 50-50 draw if I had both tickets. So, like it wasn't happening for me. And when that happened, I switched over. I'm like, oh, okay, this is amazing. So things have changed. I can't see them. I'm starting to get more in tune and feeling things a little bit. Like I can sense that I'm happier. Think like I'm starting to prioritize me. I'm doing a little more self-care. I'm prioritizing the things that are important for my mental health, especially, and my emotional well-being. And at some point, it was my birthday. I walked into this store and this metaphysical shop that everybody had been telling me to go to for months, and I finally just decided to go on my birthday because I was recently divorced, and I was just kind of going, I keep hearing this thing, so I should do it. And I'm starting to notice that more people tell me to do something. It's really just, okay, I'll just go do it now because I know it's going to just keep showing up. And on the board there, it's like, I didn't realize this lady taught courses, and was teaching her last series of theta healing sessions. And I looked at it, and I thought, okay, well, that's a pretty good sign. And, I went to it, and I walked in, and my first thought was, oh my goodness, I am the only guy here. I should probably leave. But something inside of me told me to stay.
Mhm.
And I felt so foolish that first day, because everybody seemed to be able to tune into things and pick up on energies and stuff. And people have been like in tune with everything. And meanwhile, I'm like just getting past feeling good and bad, and understanding that I can feel sad, and I can also feel sad and happy about something at the same time. And that I can cry and laugh and all these things where I had been so locked down for so long.
Mhm.
And then I went to the first training, and it was really good. And I helped, you pair up over and over. It's not a sit down class. It's an experiential class where you're helping people and you're learning the techniques and stuff. And I helped some people, and then I did the advanced class after that, and I helped more people. And then I just started helping anyone I could, anywhere I could. And I did all the trainings that I could do with it, and now I just, it's when you're ready, the person appears and the path appears. You're just you just got to be ready to walk the path at that moment. And I'm starting to see, as I have gone through hell in so many different ways, I had to go through these things. I had to experience the hard things so that when somebody comes to me, I can go, yeah, I know what it's like to be abused. I know what it's like to feel unloved, to feel unworthy. I know what it's like to have it look one way on the outside and feel very different on the inside. I'm here for you. I know what this is like, and we're going to work on this together. And it's beautiful, and it's life changing, and it's way better than accounting.
Wow. What a journey. I love that you have kind of been pulling at a thread. And the word trust keeps coming up for me, that there
Okay.
is a certain amount of trust that you have been embracing along this journey. You must have trusted the acupuncturist you went to. You must have
Yeah.
trusted the next person and the next person, and then it sounds like you began to trust your own instincts and your own intuition to say,
Yeah.
oh, well, maybe let's try this next. And that's fascinating. Does that sound right to you for your own experience? Am I on target?
Yeah, I would say you're on target with that. I think a lot of it has been there's definitely, I mean, you're getting the highlights. There's a lot of lowlights in through all of that too. And I always feel like I need to disclose that because there was a period where I was low. I, I was doing meditations every day and um, I was cracking to say the least, and I wouldn't even take an Advil. Like I was really against any kind of putting anything in my body. I have no clue why. I don't know where I got that belief from, but it's long gone at this point. And a couple of my friends could see that I wasn't in good shape, and they told me, you probably should try antidepressants, and I did, and they helped, but even that was an adjustment. There were many, many dark days. I had to go through a divorce through all of this, and it was very painful. It's painful to watch my kids go through that. It's painful to watch their mom go through that. But it also I had to do what was right for me, and all of these things, some of the path that we walk down when we're suffering the most, it's so we can help other people later on with it. And that's the thing that has really carried me through a lot of moments. I have cried more in the last 2 years than I did in the last 30. And I feel better with it all. I feel like the emotions don't get stuck in me in anymore. The emotional garage, I'm sure there's a few more boxes that I haven't unpacked yet where I don't know if you ever finish unpacking the boxes. I really hope you do, but I'll report back on that one if it ever happens. But I really do feel that when we're going through these hard times, it's very easy to look at somebody at the end and go, look at me, I want a trip. And it's like, yeah, but it's really hard when you are feeling like you're going to crack at any given moment because you don't understand what's going on in your life because the foundation you created to keep safe is crumbling underneath you and it's not through anything you're doing, it's life trying to lead you down a better road and using you said like I was kind of pulling a thread. Well, for the first while, the thread was pulling me, and I denied it. I didn't want to do it, and now I think a lot of times in life we get to that point where we look through things and we go, life has a better plan for you than the one you can come up with, and you got to trust it. And the more you resist it, the harder it is. And it's kind of like swimming upstream, right? Sometimes you just got to let the river of life lead you where you're meant to go. But it is not, it hasn't been sunshine and rainbows. There's a lot of hard moments, there's a lot of challenges, and that's okay. Life isn't about being perfect. We are perfect. We're born perfect. We just put a lot of wrapping paper around how we think we're supposed to be and to hide who we truly are. But there is this other part that we tend to have the negative emotions, and I'm using air quotes here because they're not really negative emotions, but like the sadness, the anger, the fear, the despondency, the depressions, all those things exist with another side, and that upward side of it, you can't be sad and not feel happy. You don't get one without the other. You just don't. And not in a true sense. I mean, I know we can all drug ourselves up and feel a certain way, and that's not the same as experiencing that sadness and getting to experience that joy. So when you have that hard moment, when you are sitting there going, I don't understand why this is happening, it's so you're evolving and you get to feel a growth so that when the next person's going through this, you can look at it and go, I got you. You know what? I walk this path and I can't walk it for you, but I can walk alongside you and encourage you along and lend the hand when you need it. That's what I
Yeah.
do.
And I will say, yeah, it's never one and done as far as the journey goes. Like you
I wish
said,
it was, but yeah, no.
am I done? Am I ever gonna be done? No, no. We're humans. We're so afraid of feeling what we call negative emotions that we push them off. I mean, I'll just speak for me myself personally.
Mhm.
I just want to feel better. I just want to feel better.
It's so true. we go through these things and we just, I mean, I think we all just want to be done with it. And,
And
done
the
with
only way to be done with it is to be
yeah,
dead, really.
yeah, exactly. You're not escaping it. Well, you get to at one point, but you're here to learn these lessons. And two things that came up, and this was one of I don't always talk about this, but in those dark moments, I have a lifelong friend who's known me since the day I was born, and he's down south. I'm up in Canada, and he's down in Georgia. And we would talk once in a while, and he was kind of helping me through things. And he had this guy come into the office, and he was working on him, and he said, whoever you're thinking about, I need to meet. And he said, well, I'm thinking about Andy, which is one of the few people that call me Andy because, again, he's known me since the day I was born. And
Mhm.
so he said, like, this guy wants to talk to you, and you don't have to, but I'm just letting you know. I'm like, okay, well, I'm really not there. And meanwhile, I'm doing a nosedive at this point. I'm meditating every morning. I'm starting to feel like something touching my head, like kind of like stroking the side of my face, which is really weird. So, like a good accountant, I closed off all the air vents and air things to make sure that it wasn't just a draft. And then it really got freaked out at that point because it wasn't. And
Was
this
this happening?
guy,
Wait a minute. Was this happening over the course of several different meditations that you would have this sensation?
the first time it happened, I went and I closed off all the air vents and just turned off everything to make sure. And then it just kept happening every
So it
day.
was a
And
recurring experience. Okay. All right.
yeah, and it happened when we started this interview too. But it's what happened with this was this man called me up and he said, this is weird. I'm just letting you know this, and I know it's going to be hard to hear, but you have an angel next to you, and they're trying to tell you that it's going to be okay. And I'm doing the accountant thing where I'm like, okay, this person's trying to take my money somehow, and I'm not really sure how this is playing out.
Hmm.
And I'm like, okay, well, what side is it on? It's like, she's right there. And I'm like, oh, and it's like, and you know who this is. You've been very close to them. They recently left you. And I knew who it was. It was my grandma, closest relationship I've had. Um, and again, finally I just started crying in front of this person that I just met because, this it just needed to come out. And it was you know, and I'm still sitting here going, I'm an accountant. This isn't on my spreadsheets. This isn't the way it's supposed to go. This is nowhere in my written plan and but like I said, these things happen. And that person has become one of my best friends over the last couple of years. There was at one point I was having a really, really bad weekend, and he called me. He's like, I don't know why I'm calling you right now. And if it's a bad time, let me know. But I just feel like you need to talk with somebody right now. And this is like the third time I've talked with this person. And that's when you start to realize that life is much bigger than you probably think it is. And it's amazing when you start to walk down that path. But at first it's scary. So,
Yeah.
for me to have gone through this, like I will always my joke is gonna always be again, I'm an accountant or I was an accountant. Like it's just a lot of the stuff doesn't make sense, but that's okay. I think our rational brains are trying to understand something that, I don't know if we're really meant to understand it at this point. We're just supposed to experience it. And that's what we're here for in life is to experience things, good and bad, because you don't get one without the other. It doesn't work like that here.
Yeah. Wow. So now you are working with other people as a theta healer. What are you learning about yourself now through offering this for other people?
Um, Two things. The first thing is it feels way better to help people heal and help people on their journey than it did hiding behind a spreadsheet. And I still love a good spreadsheet. Um, I make it sound like it's a steak or something like that. But yeah, no. And the other thing is that we have all suffered. And I think the hardest part for all of us is that we dismiss our suffering by looking at the other person and going, well, it wasn't that. You know, I didn't grow up in a war-torn country where I had to flee on a boat. It was just my sibling that attacked me, or it was just being bullied in school. doesn't matter what your story is, you have to heal from it if you want to move forward. And I know it's hard to look at. I really do. There were times driving to my sessions where I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to cry again. I don't want to let it go. But I did it because if you do the hard work now, it gets easier later. And that was the point of paying off the mortgage was I'm going to do the hard stuff first so that life gets easier later. And it does. And that's a good thing. But we're all dented cans. Nobody's perfect. Everything you see on social media about, the golden lives and all that, we all are fighting battles that nobody knows about. I just want to help you fight your battles so that you can move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think that you could have come to this work for yourself any earlier than you did? Or do you think
I
timing has something to do with it and aging has something to do with it?
I think divine timing comes into a lot of this stuff. And, maybe I could have had it, maybe I could have processed stuff in my 20s with the trauma that I had gone through and aged differently and gone through things differently. But I think everything happens for a reason when it does. And, I say I'm an accountant turned energy healer, but I'm really an accountant turned blogger turned marketer turned energy healer turned personal growth guy. And I had to go through those stages. And when you look at yourself like a seed that's kind of like blossoming into a tree, you look at yourself a little differently. And it's only when you look back on your life and you look back on the moments that shaped and defined your life as you were going through it that you can kind of go, oh, that's why that happened. Oh, that's
Mm,
why that didn't happen.
mm,
And you can start to see like, it didn't make sense that I fell in a way that I had a friend who was standing right next to me when it happened and said, I've seen you fall way worse 100 times in the last 2 years. Apparently I'm not a good skater, but the idea is that you've fallen a million times worse. You should not have got hurt the way you did.
it is the looking back sometimes that suddenly pulls an experience into focus. I can look back now at certain things through my life and go, oh, that was a pivotal moment that I didn't recognize as a pivotal moment when it was happening. But looking back now, I can clearly see how formative that was.
Absolutely.
And I think I find this fascinating that, like you said, it's this divine timing and things have to happen and unfold as they will and as they have. Um, that's the gift, I think, of getting older is the having been through it and the being able to look back and either be empowered or not. But we have this
Yeah.
opportunity to make a choice as we age about how we're going to look at things that happened to us and how we're going to look at, especially in midlife, how we're going to look at what's possible for us going forward.
I like that. I for the longest time, I would look at things and go, why is this happening to me? When I got hurt with the concussion, I'm like, why is this thing that I love to do? Like, it's my passion. Uh, why is it being taken away? And, when I was a child, I loved fishing with my dad. And then I developed a anaphylactic fish and seafood allergy. And all these things that I loved would be taken away. And I was so angry. And it's only in looking back on these things can I go like, this has all been happening for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a very powerful switch. It's one word, but when it's happening for you, it's a gift. And it's happening for you to go down a path that maybe it's what your soul was meant to do. Maybe it's just divine timing. It's whatever you want to label it. I choose to look at it like I came here for a purpose. And if I kept, drinking beer, having a beer after hockey every night and playing hockey, and I would have had a grand old time. but I wouldn't have helped people. And I know that I would have worked till whatever age, retired and read books. I don't know what I would have done. Nothing wrong with doing that either, if that's your calling, by the way. Just everybody's got a different one. And it's only when you can start looking at those things like that's why they broke up with you. That's why they didn't say yes. That's why you didn't get this job. That's why you got that job. That's why you missed this client. Start thinking of things happening for you all the time is a great way to empower your life to the point where I get somewhere like I travel quite a bit now, which is my one of my passions. And I I'll go somewhere and like my flight will be canceled or I'll miss it. And I just go, okay, I wonder what's going to happen from this. And sure enough, something good happens. Sometimes I get to where I'm going faster than I was meant to. And other times I meet somebody interesting or I get an hour to myself to listen to a book that has the exact knowledge that I'm trying to gain at that moment that I probably wouldn't have got had I gone from plane to plane and done the things that I did. So when you get curious about life and what it's trying to give you, it's a lot more fun. And
Oh, it's so much more fun.
it really is.
Yeah.
And I don't call it a midlife crisis. I call it a midlife awakening. And I've had people ask me what's the difference, and I say a red sports car. Midlife crisis, you go get the fast car and all the things that you feel like you never got. And midlife awakenings, you come at it and you go, this is yeah, it was a good first act. This next act, I need to do the things that I've been kind of putting off or ignoring. And so far, this act has been amazing.
Yes, I agree. I am 100% in the midlife awakening camp as far as all that goes.
Love
And
it.
how much more fun to look at it as an awakening than a crisis, first of all. You
Yeah,
know, there's whenever we can approach things with curiosity and this sense of adventure, then the limits kind of dissolve.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, really.
very
And
cool.
and you it is. And the way one of my friends put it is like the universe is trying to do something for you. Do you really think you're smarter than the universe? And it's a humbling thing because sometimes I'm like, yes, because I want to catch my connection right now. And and inevitably I never am. And I think again it's that swimming against the current or just letting the tide take you where you're meant to be.
Yeah.
I think I kind of messed up my water metaphor there, but that you get what I'm trying to
I'm with
say.
you. I'm with you 100%. Well, how can people find you to work with you, Andrew?
So I'm 5yearyou.com is the easiest place. We can just reach out through the contact. We're starting to offer coaching in small groups where we help people create. We have the layers of life where you go internal and you find your soul's purpose and you start creating a life that resonates with you rather than this life that you may have created accidentally. And 5yearyou.com is where you can go get started with all of that. And I love my real passion is getting to talk with new people, and I love when I see a new mark on my calendar going, somebody's wanting to do a one-on-one session to just see if this is right for them because it's not right for everyone. And it's if you're hearing this and you're feeling called to it, set up a coffee with me and we'll have a chat.
Fantastic. And I will have information in the show notes for anybody who's driving right now or can't get to a computer. You can just head to the show notes for this episode and I'll have everything there to link up with Andrew for you. All right.
Perfect.
Andrew, thank you so much for being here today and for sharing your story and for sharing the bumps in the road as well.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me on. This has been a great talk. Grateful
Oh,
for you. Thank you.
thank you. Well, there you have it. Thanks so much for being here with me today. I hope Andrew's story has you thinking about how the challenges in your life might have been happening for you instead of happening to you. It really is a powerful way to look at your past, to see how it's shaped you and how you can grow from it instead of being held back by it. For me, this conversation is a reminder that healing and growth and transformation are always possible no matter where we are in life. If you want to know more about Andrew Dewar, you can find a link to his website in the show notes. Just go to latebloomerliving.com/podcast and look for episode 210. And if you enjoyed this conversation, please share it with someone who might need a little encouragement today. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review. It really does help people to find the podcast. And be sure to come back next week. Thank you so much for listening all the way here to the end. And remember, always be bloomin' and bloom like you mean it.